Well, welcome to our fifth Friday Forum. We started this series in January, and this is actually the last one scheduled. We're going to regroup and think about the timing of these. We want to try to get a bigger crowd actually in the future. But I see some familiar faces, and it's nice to have you here this morning. If you follow what's going on campus, those of us in the administration can say we're looking forward to the end of the quarter. It's been a rough few weeks. Graduation is approaching in 2 weeks, and you'll notice lots of families in town, which is always an exciting time for us. I'm Keith Brandt. I'm the Vice Chancellor for University Relations, and earlier this month we kicked off our long-range planning process. Chancellor Blumenthal spoke with the City Council earlier this week, and in a few weeks we'll be talking with the Board of Supervisors. And one of our guest speakers, Sarah Latham, is heading up that effort, and she'll talk a little about that later. We've a bunch of upcoming events. This time of year is also a big event time on campus. We have the annual Mandel Lecture, which features the best of astronomy and astrophysics, and that's June 1st. And at the Real Theater this year, we'll be talking about Einstein, gravitational waves, and black holes. It was always surprising to me when I came here how an astronomy lecture in town could fill the Rio Theater with the hundreds of people. That's just amazing. I don't think that happens in Berkeley and Westwood. That's Santa Cruz are hungry for astronomy. Over the next 2 months, we'll be celebrating the 50th anniversary of our Farm and Garden. On June 4th, we have the organizers of Outstanding in the Field, the international program that got its start here, will host a dinner on the UC Santa Cruz farm. And Chef Brad Brisk, who recently opened the restaurant Home in Soquel, will be cooking. So it's part of our 2 months of anniversary programs, and actually our second speaker, Daniel Press, will touch on that as well. And then upcoming, we have the Social Documentary Film Festival at the Del Mar Theater, where graduate students show their thesis films, so that's also interesting. So let me introduce our two speakers today. We're talking about farm and garden and plant, not just plants, but the campus as a plant. So our first speaker will be Sarah Latham. She's the Vice Chancellor for Business and Administrative Services, and she oversees much of the operational side of the university. So if you think of the university as a city, she's kind of like our city manager. She's responsible for housing and residential life, for facilities planning, construction, physical plant, grounds, health and safety, accounting, fiscal services, human resources, just about all the business side of the house. She's in her 5th year at UC Santa Cruz, and she's co-chairing currently, along with a faculty colleague, our long-range planning process, which she'll touch on. And also what we're doing with student housing. Housing, as everyone here knows, is the issue of the day in Santa Cruz County, and actually in all of California. But Sarah's got an exciting project that she's leading. Following Sarah will be Daniel Press, and Daniel is a longtime Environmental Studies Department faculty member since he's been with campus since 1992, and he's also the Executive Director of the Center for Agroecology and Sustainable Food Systems, or what we call for short CASFIS. His research focuses on land and open space preservation efforts, water and air quality, and the greening of U.S. manufacturing. As Executive Director of CASFIS, he's led a major effort to expand the UC Santa Cruz farm into new production fields and the renovation of the historic Cowell Hay Barn, which is now the new headquarters for CASFIS. And if you haven't been to the farm, it's really a wonderful facility, has a great vibe. And they do classes in there, and Daniel's really led the way for more undergraduates getting involved in our organic farming program and other things. And expanding our apprenticeship program and all kinds of great things. So we're going to have Sarah come up, followed by Daniel. We'll leave a few minutes for Q&A and promise to be done by 9:30. Okay? Take it away, Sarah.
All right, awesome. Okay, I was getting this. They got this cool new clicker that I'm going to use. It has a really cool feature I'm going to show you later. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm overhyping it. Hello, everybody. I'm Sarah Latham, as Keith said, and Vice Chancellor for Business and Administrative Services. And so I want to talk with you about a couple issues that we think might be top of mind for you related to housing and our campus planning process for UC Santa Cruz. But first, this summarizes a little bit about what Keith said. I think the analogy is a good one. I'm sort of the Martine Bernal of UC Santa Cruz, and he's actually been a wonderful working colleague for me in my almost 5 years at UC Santa Cruz. And we have a very diverse portfolio in my division, and it impacts everything. And it's, if people are too hot or too cold, or they get a parking ticket or something like that, that's all me. So at times it can be, a challenging sort of position. Nobody likes to get a parking ticket. But we've also had some new items moved into my division. The bottom one right here, OPERS, which is right there. See, that's the cool feature of this clicker. That's the only reason I'm pointing at OPERS, actually, was just moved into the division in January, and that it contains our athletics department and our recreation department. As a campus, as we've tried to accommodate our existing students and new students coming in, these services are really, really critical. Making sure that the lived experience of the students outside of the classroom and the labs is really supportive and conducive for their success. So it's been an absolute pleasure to be at UC Santa Cruz. I love the campus. I love the Santa Cruz community. So thank you so much for taking the time to come out and learn some more. As Keith said, there's a couple of items I'm linked to that I'm going to talk to you about this morning. The first one deals with housing. The housing unit reports into my division, as well as construction and facilities. So I'm going to talk about our Student Housing West project, and then also talk about the Long Range Development Plan, which I'm co-chairing with Kim Lau, who is our Vice Chair of the Academic Senate. So in terms of the LRDP, I thought I'd start with saying what an LRDP is and what it's not, because I think there might be some misperceptions from folks about what an LRDP actually is. It's really a comprehensive framework to achieve the academic goals of the campus by looking at physical development. And it includes sort of a map that shows a guide related to capital construction and land use and infrastructure. Every single campus in the UC has a long-range development plan, and they are approved by our Board of Regents. Not only does the Board of Regents approve the plan, they also approve the environmental impact report that's done in conjunction with that plan, which I'll talk more about in a second. It does not constitute a mandate for growth. It doesn't have a specific operational or implementation plan for achieving certain types of development. It doesn't commit the campus to developing everything they say they will. Rather, it's a framework for how best to categorize our land for future support of the campus mission. And really, it's the equivalent of a city or county general plan. So some people think it's a specific master plan that we're going to build this building in this year and do this and that's not really what it is. It's more of a framework to accommodate the plans of the campus. We just launched our LRDP process. The last LRDP was done in 2005. And so it's a multi-year process. Our goal is to have it approved by the Board of Regents in spring of 2020. Whereas 4 basic phases, pre-planning is sort of the notion of, hey, who's going to be on the committee and who's going to chair it and what's the timeline going to be. So we completed that in winter quarter. We're now in the second phase of planning and committee work. That process will go on about 16 months. And I'm going to talk in a moment about some community outreach that we're really going to be doing as part of that. Then after we put together the proposed plan, it goes through environmental review and CEQA, the California Environmental Quality Act review. And that we've scheduled to have about 20 months. It's a very complicated process, and it's very important to our campus, to our community, and to our state. So that requires a lot of time, the CEQA and environmental process. And then hopefully successful approval and adoption. One of the key lessons learned from the last LRDP process was that we had gaps in communication and engagement. We didn't do it early enough, we didn't do it often enough, and we probably didn't do it in the right sort of format that was productive and conducive to really building key partnerships and engagement. So we're really trying to learn from that and apply new ways to consult and engage. So we have the LRDP Planning Committee, which, as I said, I chair. And our key focus is stakeholder engagement as we develop the plan. We're charged with developing the plan, and one of our key functions that we're charged with is stakeholder engagement. So Kim and I will be reaching out to groups throughout the community, throughout the county as well. We really understand that broader impact of our campus for engagement along the way. Through the entire development of that plan, that 16 months of really intense engagement. And then, of course, there'll be engagement through the CEQA and environmental process. Here are 4 ways that we're really trying to engage the community, both the Santa Cruz city community and beyond that. First of all, we have some amazing community members on our LRDP planning committee. And I'm just saying that because one's in the room. And we also are formulating a community engagement committee. This is envisioned to span a lot of different organizations, state government, county, neighbors, different business leaders in the Santa Cruz area. And we're going to be seeking out from different groups nominations for people to serve on that. So we're not being viewed as sort of handpicking only certain people that will kind of agree with us on everything. So we're really trying to model that openness and transparency. We'll also be doing topic-specific white papers and analyses of critical topics and subjects, and we'll engage different subject matter experts both within the campus and then in the broader community, and then open forums throughout. We really want to shape the open forums to be more sort of solution-based, as opposed to just we're going to tell you this or you're going to tell us that, really kind of trying to talk about what potential solutions exist. So those are the areas of community engagement. So many of you will see more about this in the weeks, months, and years to come. We're really trying to be very proactive in that endeavor. Now, one of the issues, though not directly linked to the LRDP, but that are top of mind for people, is housing. So I want to give a quick update on our Student Housing West project. You know, we have students live on campus not so we can just kind of warehouse them or give them shelter, which is critical, but because it's absolutely vital for student success. Research shows that living on campus enhances student retention and graduation. It's one of the most critical within-campus factors beyond anything else, even trumping certain aspects of student preparation. So it's vital. But we've got to do that in a way that takes into account student demand, affordability, the cost of living around us, and our debt capacity for how to deliver housing. We house more students, get ready for it, I just love this, than any campus in the UC system. We house about 53% of our undergraduates and nearly half of all of our students. And that's more than any of our 9 sister campuses. And so that's great and it's good, but we have great demand needs for building additional beds on campus. There's 3 kinds of demand needs that we're trying to meet by building the Student Housing West project. The first deals with density. Over time, we've accommodated additional enrollment by densifying our existing buildings. Now, not all of that is bad, because some conversion of doubles into triples can afford a better cost point for students. But where it's had a challenging impact on our student experience has been the conversion of lounge spaces. As of this fall, we will have converted 141 of our lounges into bed spaces, leaving only 17 lounges across campus. That's not sustainable, and it's a challenge to that critical, amazing student experience. So part of the need for additional beds is to reduce a bit of that density and return part of those lounges back to, their original purpose. Next is to accommodate any enrollment growth. We have a missional obligation to represent the diversity of the state of California, and the President and the Board of Regents have worked with the state to say that we value our Californians and we want to be able to accommodate them in this amazing thing that is the University of California. But to do that, we need to add more beds. So enrollment growth is the second aspect of density we're trying to deal with. And then finally, students who are on the wait list or in the pipeline, they don't even apply for housing because we are viewed to not have any on campus, or we can't give certain housing guarantees to students throughout their years. So these students currently live in the community, both locally and broader, so we need to accommodate those students and have more opportunities for those students to live on campus as opposed to within the broader community. And so that's the third area that we're trying to accommodate with new housing. We're delivering the Student Housing West project as a part of the President's Housing Initiative, which was launched last year. Our campuses are located in some kind of high cost of living areas. Santa Cruz, Santa Barbara, San Diego, Los Angeles, not exactly cheap areas to live in. And so all campuses have many of the same pressures. There's high off-campus rates in terms of rental rates. There's low vacancy rates. Our vacancy rate in Santa Cruz spans between 0.8% and 2%, depending on the month and depending on the source. That's just an astronomically low vacancy rate. So the President launched this new housing initiative, and part of it is to deliver new beds using a public-private partnership model. We feel that this is the best model to be able to speed up the delivery of beds, as well as to manage our overall system debt capacity. We're the first campus in the UC system to deliver a project under this new model. UC Riverside is right on our heels, and UC Davis is also coming up with a project under this new model of public-private partnership. Our Student Housing West project's called Student Housing West because it's in the West. And wait for it, there it is. There's our West Campus entrance. Here you're driving up through the West Campus entrance. There's current family student housing. There's Rachel Carson College. There's Porter, and there's Kresge. And so we're looking in this area right here to redevelop, utilize the space where family student housing currently is, as well as broader space in this area. The total area is about 50 acres. We won't build on all 50 acres. Environmental constraints, geological and topographical constraints will guide where we build. But we're looking to bring on 3,000 beds to accommodate our upper division juniors and seniors, our graduate students. We need to accommodate more graduate students on campus. They're a vital part of our mission, and our students with children currently living in family student housing. The first group of beds will be online for fall of 2020, and the remainder of the entire project by fall of 2022. There's challenges. There's some challenging topography and geology in the area. We have karst, which isn't the most ideal thing to build on, and limited infrastructure, so there'll be great infrastructure costs in bringing infrastructure to the site. But we're so thrilled about this project. We've got 3 development teams who will be submitting proposals. We'll select the developer in September, and then we'll start design and construction. So with that, I'm going to turn it over for the more exciting part of the morning, although I think that this is going to be tough to beat, Dan. I mean, good luck with it.
Yeah.
No, because we'll have to replace some family student housing and also some density reductions, I said earlier. So probably you're looking at 2,300 net new.
Oh, the fancy clicker.
There you go. Good luck with it.
All right. Okay, folks, I have prettier slides than Sarah. So in many respects, Sarah is talking about campus-wide issues and thousands of people and buildings and so on, so it's really important, but I got the pretty side. So, of course, this is the Farm and Garden. We do call it CASFAS. CASFAS is a terrible acronym. I feel like giving you a community-supported agriculture share if you can come up with a better acronym that says everything we want it to. Good luck with that. So let's just call it the Farm and Garden. And now, whee! So we have our hay barn over there. I'm just doing this to play with it. Hay barn is over there that Keith mentioned. Some of our new fields here and over here, greenhouses, production fields, and tent cabins, and there's some faculty housing right there. So I'd like to take you through a quick walk of our history and also what is happening there now. The main message that I'd like to this audience to take home is that this is a community farm. This is a people's farm. This is a place that is open at all times. It's open to everybody. There are no locks. But that doesn't mean that you should pick all the strawberries yourself. So don't do that. And so it is many things to many people. Let's see what some of those things are. But first of all, it starts off 50 years ago. We're celebrating our 50th anniversary. You have cards about that. Big, lots of celebrations. We are the oldest organic agriculture research and training facility at a university in the United States. There is nobody who has been at it longer than us, not at a university anyway. It all starts in 1967, the Summer of Love, right? Urban lore, or maybe rural lore, it has it that the Santa Cruz campus didn't have meeting spaces so that you couldn't have protests. You couldn't be as effective. I'm not sure that that's true. Nonetheless, the students did want some kind of spaces where they could come together and connect with their campus. And an idea that emerged from the students and their faculty allies was to have a garden. a place of beauty and repose where the students could come and get renewed. And through various convoluted schemes involving European royalty, among others, a peripatetic former Shakespearean actor turned biodynamic gardener named Alan Chadwick, there he is, somehow got recruited to Santa Cruz. And it was so convoluted that he actually, they couldn't even hire him right away. They had to have him enroll as a student and then reimburse his fee. It was just completely convoluted. And he was very, he had a very magnetic, very forceful personality. He was employing Rudolf Steiner's biodynamic gardening, double digging, French intensive. And he went up to campus and he selects the most inhospitable site for a garden, a 4-acre south-facing slope by Merrill filled with poison oak and redwood. And if you could do it there, you could do it anywhere. And that's what he proves. So he proves that you could have this incredible garden. This is a photograph from the late 60s. So our fruit trees weren't quite so high anymore. If you went there right now, it would look a lot like this, except that there would be over 120 varieties of heirloom apples and pears all growing up there. So the students come in, they have a great time, they get transformed, they learn a lot, and then they go to Chancellor Dean McHenry and they say, hey, Chancellor, we're doing this great gardening stuff, and we'd like to take our show onto a bigger plot of land. Will you give us some more land? And Dean McHenry, from a farm family, says, sure, you can have 17 acres down on Lower Campus. And Alan Chadwick says, what, 17 acres? That's not enough. We want 50 acres. We want 60 acres. I'm out of here. Well, it wasn't quite like that. But they did get their 17 acres, and here they are with some of the early farm beds. Remarkably, they also got permission to start an experiential residential learning program. If you think the dorm shortage is bad now, the dorm shortage did not exist. There was no dorms. So the students were living on teepees, on the farm. Now, I just would invite you to imagine the situation, the scenario. If I went to George Blumenthal, our chancellor today, and I said, George, I got this great idea. So I'm going to have students living in teepees on campus. You like it? I don't know how it happened, but it did. And so here they are. Here's some of the early farm beds. The students planted cypress windbreaks along the north and west side to break the wind a little bit. They came together to build, this is an equipment barn that was built with in timber joinery methods. If you walk the site, you will see greenhouses, you will see labs, you will see a big cooking facility, you will see tent cabins. Everything was either built by student volunteers and volunteered wood, sometimes involuntarily volunteered, or gifts. It's all done that way, not with university support. Here is the Chadwick Garden today, and you can see it's a little bit more grown up. Now, the problem for people at UC Santa Cruz, here I'll keep it on the pretty picture for the time being. The problem for the people at UC Santa Cruz is how do you provide instruction in organic gardening and horticulture and farming at the University of California, Santa Cruz? You can provide farm instruction at my alma mater, UC Davis. So, you know, it's customary for UC Santa Cruz to poo-poo the big agribusiness UC Davis, but it's my alma mater, and, you know, that's where you learn to make wine, so we can't be all bad, right? So how do you do it if you're not one of the land-grant campuses, if you're not one of the ag schools in the UC system? And so in the early to mid-'70s, students and their faculty allies came up with the idea that they would offer this residential, farm-based, experiential learning program through UC Extension. So you would get instruction in the field and in the classroom, and you would get credit, continuing education kind of credit. And that was the kind of gimmick or the trick that was used to be able to have some kind of instruction here. And so was launched the apprentice program. It has a very 1970s name. It's the Apprenticeship in Ecological Horticulture. Again, it says it all, but kind of in a funny way. And so what is it? It is this remarkable, unusual program that invites about 40 apprentices from all over the country, and some from other countries as well, who come, and today they don't live in tents or teepees, they live in tent cabins, beautiful tent cabins. We have 36 little spaces in our 9 tent cabins. And they come in early April, and they stay through October. Basically the growing season, the main part of the growing season in Santa Cruz. They receive about 700 hours of instruction in the field. And 700 hours of field instruction is also a euphemism for working their butts off in the field. And they, about 300 hours of classroom instruction. We have graduated over 1,500 of these apprentices. And I like to exaggerate a little bit about them. I like to say that if you meet an organic farmer in California, we either trained them or trained somebody who trained them. It's probably not true, okay. I have to say that. But a lot. We trained a lot of them. So they are a critical part of what we do. These are the tent cabins that they live in. This is some of our cover crops right there. All of our fertility is done through cover crops. We do not use any external fertility. And I defy you to find better soils than ours. Go ahead, try. This is some instruction up in the garden. We believe very much in exporting our model of learning and training. So we have developed 2 training manuals. This is the first one. It's called Teaching Organic Farming and Gardening, and it is how you train the trainers in this thing that we call agroecology. We recently raised a lot of money to update this. Is in its 3rd edition. And this guide, along with the guide on marketing small farm, organic farm products, these are available free of charge as PDFs on our website and have been downloaded 20,000 times. So to give you an idea that one of our limitations that as a campus that is not a land-grant campus is that we cannot project ourselves into the ag industry in the same way that UC Davis can. We can't quite have that same impact. And so this is a way of extending some of that impact. Now, we don't know where our apprentices or our students are going to go. Some of them are going to go into organic farms. Some of them are going to go into farm gardens, what we call farm gardens. Some of them are going to go into urban gardens. Some of them are going to go teach science through gardening, like Life Lab, in the schools. Some of them are going to start, like Catherine Sneed, the Prison Garden Project, and start teaching inmates how to grow food. She actually did that. Her challenge was, how do you have inmates work the garden without any metal implements? Challenging. But she managed to do it, and it has been transformative. So we model a lot of different experiences, whether it's small hand-cultivated gardening, whether it's tractor-cultivated field production, or propagation. Right here's what you're looking at is propagation. So we have 3 greenhouses on site. We do a lot of seed saving. We grow a lot of our own starts for planting out in the fields. And that's another way. That's something that you would not get if you were apprenticing on a commercial farm, it's not likely that they would have their own propagation system, but we have that available. Our apprentices, our alumni are all over the place. If you go on growafarmer.org, you will see a little map. Oh, wait, I get to use this thing. There. Ta-da! You get to use this little map here, this right here. And you can see where they are all around the country, with big concentrations in places like California and the Hudson Valley, for example, and see that they've had a lot of impact. Now, I'd like to make sure that you also know that we provide instruction to a lot of undergraduates as well. I mentioned the 40 apprentices a year, the 1,500 alumni, but we have, by our count, we have 70 to 80 interns at the farm and garden any year, and another couple hundred in classes that have labs down at the farm and up in the gardens as well. So easily 300 undergraduates a year are receiving instruction in agroecology and food systems. Most of them are environmental studies students. Some of them are environmental studies students with a concentration in agroecology and sustainable food systems. And here they are. This is just a couple weeks ago with our staff, Daryl Wong, doing a demo on potato planting. And so these potatoes that are being planted in this field right here are going to end up in the dining halls. And so imagine this. Imagine that undergraduates at UC Santa Cruz go down to their own farm, grow organic produce, and then bring it themselves up to their own dining halls, and they say to their peers, "We grew this for you. You're eating your own campus, and it's healthy, and it's beautiful, and it tastes good, too." They take a lot of pride in that. Here they are getting some instruction from our guru, Orrin Martin, up in the Chadwick Garden. Yeah. Now, we are also a production farm. That's another thing that we are. We have a farm stand cart down at the base of campus, which many of you have seen. Why do we have a cart at the base of campus? We have a cart at the base of campus because we are not at the farmer's market. Why are we not at the farmer's market? Well, because when we were at the farmer's market, our alumni would look at us and say, "You're the subsidized farm up at UC who's competing with us here down at the market. Get out of here." So we said, "All right, fine, we won't do that." It doesn't seem to faze anybody when I say that we only get 10% of our budget from the University of California, but that doesn't seem to make any difference. So there's our farm stand cart. We are, as I said, we are also producing for dining halls. And as we have a little flyer on the table there for you, we have a community-supported agriculture program with about 100 to 130 members in there every year. And by the way, does everybody know how community-supported agriculture works? Does anybody not know? This is a subscription service, so you pay in at the beginning, and you share some of the investment and risk with the farmer. UC Santa Cruz was one of the early adopters of this marketing model and helped to demonstrate how it works. We are also a research site. So if you want to do grown-up agroecological and agronomic research at a university, you must have your own research station. You can't waltz in every other Thursday to the U.S. Department of Agriculture and say, "Give us money to do research," if you don't have credible facilities to do that. You can't. It doesn't work that way. I'm immensely proud of the fact that we actually do receive millions and millions of dollars from the U.S. Department of Agriculture. I mean, maybe there won't be a U.S. Department of Agriculture a year from now. But for now, that's what we do. It exists. And so our mostly faculty with some staff partners have developed path-breaking, groundbreaking work in broccoli, in strawberries, in cotton, that have been deployed and used throughout the state. So as is true with most land-grant campuses, you are solving or addressing problems for the agricultural industry in your region. In our case, in our specialty, our niche happens to be solving problems in organic production, because that's what our niche is. I think Santa Cruz and Marin County are probably the two places in the country and perhaps in the world with the most agricultural land under certified organic. Santa Cruz, 30% of agriculture in Santa Cruz County is certified organic, which is enormous compared to any other place. One example of that research is a project that my colleague Carol Shannon and her research scientist Joji Muramoto have been working on for several years, and that is how do you grow strawberries in a sustainable, economically viable way. Now, strawberries are the prima donna, delicate princess and the pea of fruit. You look at them cross-eyed and they wilt, and they just, no, I can't. Don't. So the solution that the industry came up with, if you want to call it that, was to bomb the hell out of soils with methyl bromide and other fumigants and create basically a sterile soil profile into which you would add plants and water and nutrients, and then you'd start all over again. And it's horrid, it's bad for the atmosphere, it's bad for workers, and it doesn't actually make very good fruit either. So people have been trying to figure out how to do organic strawberries for a long time. In this particular example, which was developed simultaneously in the Netherlands and in Japan, Netherlands and Japan, what might be relating these two places? Places that have a lot of flooding, flooded fields. So when you flood a field, and maybe you grow rice, and once you drain the field, people, the Dutch and the Japanese found that you could grow crops in those previously flooded fields that weren't then subject to a lot of the diseases that had previously been in there. Something happens in that anaerobic environment that is depressing the wilt and other diseases. And so this project, now in its fifth, sixth year, with the mother trial up at UCSC and then replicates around in commercial trials, has gone from 0 acres 6 years ago under this technique to over 1,300 commercial acres here. The yields are as good as conventional, and the economics are better because you get the organic premium there. So, and here is a picture of the mother trial being prepared with different replicates in there, and use of a carbon source like rice hulls or mustard cake. So research, very important for us as well. Keith mentioned the hay barn, and so this is our new headquarters. This was a structure that was built in 1870 using the techniques at the time. The techniques at the time were not to use nails and screws. The techniques at the time were to use mortise and tenon timber joinery. And so the structure was did very well through the 1906 earthquake. It did less well over time and neglect, and by 2011, it really was about to fall down. Chain link fence was around it, wasn't looking very good. Our great friends, Alec and Claudia Webster, said, you know, we should rebuild this, and that started a project, a wonderful project of rebuilding one of the largest of such structures on the West Coast. And so now this is our new headquarters. It is a beautiful facility. Here it is with set up for a particular event, as well as our natural history event on the left there. So we are using it as a public space. We're using it as an exhibit space. We're using it as an instructional space, a meeting space, and it's really become, I think, overnight probably the prettiest meeting space on campus. And I'm sure I'd really love to argue with people about whether that's true, but I think I'd get more votes. So there it is. I said it's many things to many people, including K through 6. Actually, I'd say that you can get instruction in gardening at the Farm and Garden from K through 100. We really have that kind of outreach for everybody. So the oldest garden education program in the country, Life Lab, which got its start in Santa Cruz about 40 years ago, is headquartered at the farm. And so in addition to developing curriculum for teachers all around the country, it hosts between 2,000 and 3,000 school-age kids a year on our site who come and they learn and they eat things that their parents never thought they would because they help to see how they grow and so on. Here is a Life Lab teacher training program. We also host the Food What program. This is a youth empowerment program that you may have heard about, where mostly at-risk teens from the county come to spend a spring and summer on site, learn not only farming and cooking skills, but also life skills, career skills, and really get themselves kind of propelled into the next phase of their life. And it's an actually absolutely transformative program. And it's also hosted here. We provide both Life Lab and Food What with space for the kids to garden at. Increasingly, we are addressing food insecurity, not just in the broader world, but in our own community. So I hope to shock you if you don't already know this, but 40% of the University of California students across the 10 campuses report being hungry, going hungry. And that relates a lot to what Sarah was talking about housing. So in these expensive housing markets, what's happening is that the students are trading basically housing for food. And they end up at quarter breaks or when they have made their rental payments, not able to afford enough on their meal plan. So we have set up food pantries. We have modeled actually for the rest of the UC how you deal with this on campus. We have food pop-ups, and we produce food for our own students in this program. We also do a lot of community events. This is our plant sale, in the spring plant sale. A lot of people come to buy some plants. Harvest Festival. This is always, every kid wants to be on the tractor. This is Oren doing a workshop, pruning workshop. Again, I was saying that people of all ages can get instruction, some of them in our garden workshops. And then this is a group of conference attendees from our Sustainable Ag Education program from last summer. We host thousands and thousands and thousands of visitors on our site every year. Back to here, and just to remind you again that we have this 50th anniversary coming up, and we are going to have a real big blowout at the end of July. Karen Washington will be here, the James Beard Award winner. She set up urban gardens in New York City that are quite transformative. That'll be on Saturday morning, the 29th. Alice Waters from Chez Panisse will be our guest keynote speaker on Saturday night. The event is open to everyone. I think you'll find it to be a lot of fun. So please come. Thank you very much.
So we welcome your questions for Daniel or Sarah. Come on, back up here, folks.
Oh.
Right here.
Can you explain one more time what certified organic food actually is?
Yeah, well, I'll explain what it means if you are certified by the California Certified Organic Farmers, because certification by other people will mean other things. But here's what it means by CCOF, also headquartered here in Santa Cruz. It means that CCOF auditors will come to your property and they will look at what you're doing, and they will make sure not only that you're not using chemical fertilizers and pesticides and herbicides and rodenticides and other sides, but that your fence posts are not copper treated, that that your feed for your chickens is organic and not doesn't contain growth hormones and so on. So mostly in this state, with this certifier, it's an input-based control rather than a number of other things that you could do. You could say, for example, what wages do you pay your labor? To me, that's an important consideration as well. You could also say, what is the nutrient budget on your property? Are you putting in more nitrates, even from cover crops, than what is coming out? Or what are the climate consequences or the carbon storage of? You could do all that, but we don't do that through CCOF. It's really about inputs. And it's also about a transition into certification. So you can't go from a conventionally farmed property right into certification. There's a transition period. And so they monitor that, and they audit you every year as well. Yeah.
Scott.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I just want to make a comment, which is that, again, you kind of undersold the students of the program in the sense that I'm hearing that many of them end up going into public policy.
They do.
Restaurants.
You're right.
I mean, there's just a huge. I was really surprised that they all didn't become farmers.
No. Testify. Tell it. Yes.
They're doing amazing work.
They really are. Thank you. Yes.
And my question is about the strawberries. In terms of, you talked about that the method is to flood the fields.
Yeah. So you put on so if you're going to start with a strawberry rotation, you're going to make up your beds. You're going to flood with a few inches. You're going to add a carbon source, usually either rice hulls or mustard cake, and then you're going to let that sit for a few weeks. And that's during that process. That's when you get some anaerobic microfloral changes, and then you drain the fields and you plant.
So how does that water is such a big issue here in California.
Yeah.
So what's the juxtaposition there?
So Joji and Carol and her students have measured that. It's a one-time addition of water early on in the season, and as far as what they tell me is that it doesn't come out to more water than conventionally growing strawberries, especially if you're using drip in the way depending on how you construct your beds, and if you're using plastic in the beds, which most people are, it's a negligible incremental addition of water with a huge benefit in terms of disease control. Yeah.
How many student applicants do you turn away for the program?
For the apprentice program, we admit about 1 in 3 or so. It used to be more competitive, and what's happened is that now all these Johnny-come-latelys around the country have gotten into the business of providing organic, which is great, actually. It's wonderful. We need cohorts and armies of people going into agriculture. What's the average age of the American farmer today? 57. 57. And so you're not recruiting into agriculture enough young people, and a lot of that is because it's not very appealing to them. This model seems to be more appealing to people. But the big policy challenge that we have is that the kids that we bring in here often don't come from farm families. So if you don't come from a farm family, you don't have land, you don't have capital, you don't have water, you don't have equipment, you don't have labor, and you don't have access to markets. Okay? So that's pretty high. Those are high hurdles to go over. And so as a matter of public policy, we should try to partner with them to make it possible for them to succeed.
Is there a plan to increase openings? So more than 1 out of 3 can get in?
You could mention that would, to George Blumenthal, that would be a good idea. No, there isn't. We feel that we're pretty much at capacity with the and I guess I want to stress, coming back to what Scott was saying, that we really also want to serve the undergraduates as well. So we don't want to have a situation where only the training that we provide is for the apprentices. It's got to be for the undergraduates as well. And so if we grew the apprentice program, we might not be able to meet the undergraduates.
How many undergraduates are turned away?
None are turned away. 0, not one.
There was a detail in the housing thing, that by 2020, you had to have so many units built.
Yeah.
What's pushing that requirement?
That we just need the beds. So, yeah, we're putting that pressure out there for our development teams to be able to bring the first group online. We'd love them online earlier, but just with what it takes to build in California, the ability of localizing trades and subs in the Santa Cruz community, you can only build so much at a time. And also CEQA. The CEQA process takes quite a while. I think people are surprised at how long that can take. So 2020 is the earliest, but so we said we need at least this number. So we said 900 for 2020. And it'll likely be phased over. Some developers are saying they might be able to do it in two years versus 3, but we'll see when they give their proposals.
So are you going to be destroying the family housing that's there now?
I wouldn't say destroying it. I say replacing it because it's so far past its life. It's a challenge to maintain, and it's not the best utilization of kind of the space or density. So that's why we're providing new family student housing.
So, but all that will be torn down, and you'll have to rehouse all those families?
Yes, yeah. Yep, that's why in the program, that's why we've incorporated new housing for those individuals.
That's about 200 students.
Yeah.
And then what kind of housing are you looking at?
All apartment type styles, but again, the P3 model is that the development teams are the ones who we're saying, here's the programmatic needs, here's this and that, and then what they're doing is putting forth proposals of how we can achieve all your goals and all your values, your timing, your cost points, and deliver it. So we won't know until they submit their proposals what sort of units they are. We just said they need to be able to accommodate, like for the family units, families with children. We're switching some of the family units to accommodate couples, new more graduate student units. So we'll say they might be micro units, so they might be suite style that could accommodate a couple.
This is for Daniel. Do you ever, would you invite invitations to make this presentation in the community?
Oh, sure.
Broader?
I do it all over the place.
Do you?
Yeah,
Like Rotary clubs?
Rotary clubs, I've done that, yeah. You know, I'm a professor, so you push play and it just keeps going.
He does open mic nights at the local comedy store.
Shut up! Enough!
In fact, we were trying to invite some other people the other day, and they said, "Oh, we just saw Daniel." Anybody else?
You said it was open 24/7. Who goes to 24/7?
You know, not that many people at 2 a.m, that's true. But people wander on, you know, on a Sunday morning, they'll wander in and set up an easel and paint. Or just walk and just...
So it's not a community garden?
No, it's not a community garden, no. But it's, you know, I'm reminded of a long time ago, before I was director, and I like to tell this story a lot. My father was visiting from Sacramento, and it was a weekend, and we go up to some pretty, because they're all pretty spots. So we went up to one particular pretty spot, and we sit down, and he said, "Boy, it'd be great to have this place." And I turned to him and I said, "But Dad, we do."
Yeah.
You know, you own it. I own it. You own it. So you don't, if you wanted to participate in growing there, we could arrange that. We don't allow people to waltz in and just say, "Well, I'm gonna take this piece right here." But otherwise, people are wandering on and off and asking questions. And we have a docent program so that people can get guided tours if they like as well. Yeah. Do. You'll fall in love, and then you'll do the presentation. Yeah.
just want to make a comment to that. My name is Tim Dodson. I run Happy Valley Conference Center, small camp and conference center out on Branson Forte, and we run an internship program every summer with college students from all over, and we go repeatedly into the garden, and it has provided the inspiration for our center, but also for these students, so when they go back to the Midwest, to the East Coast, that we feel free and welcome anytime on a Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon, that we walk in with 6, 7 of these undergrads and are able to take in the vista and look at how do we want to set up our next composting program. And so it's an inspiration
Thank
to
you.
the community.
Thank you. I
think.
agree. I agree it is. And the reason it's open like this is really because it doesn't exist, I don't know, to make us feel exalted in some way. It exists to really to serve people and to inspire people that there is a more beautiful, sustainable, fair, equitable, healthy, tasty way of doing this than what we have been told.
Well, and on that testimonial, we will retire for the morning. Thank you all for coming and have a great weekend.